Hey, I'm JC. I'm really glad that you've decided to participate in our video course on coping with alcoholics. Our guarantee to you is that you're going to experience a lot more peace and serenity in your life by applying the techniques that we suggest in our video series. We have a 100% money back guarantee that backs that up, but I'm sure that once you begin to implement our techniques and strategies and methods that you will agree that you're finding that you'll have a lot more peace and serenity in your life. And the reason for that is because you're going to be learning how to detach and how to let go of the alcoholic, and you're going to learn that, the things that you've been doing haven't been working, and so it's time for you to start changing your behavior patterns, because the alcoholic is not going to change their behavior patterns. And hopefully through you changing the way that you act and react and respond and interact with the alcoholic will help them reach a bottom sooner so that they will decide to get some help on their own. But one of the things that we have to realize that, nothing that we have done until this point has really made the alcoholic quit drinking. We've begged, we've pleaded, we've shouted, we've jumped up and down, we've done some of the craziest things, and they continue to be on this destructive path called alcoholism. So we're going to be learning how to detach, how to let go, how to have unconditional love for the alcoholic, and how to get more peace and serenity in our life, and how to guard that peace and serenity. So let's get started. Okay, in this video I want to talk to you about button pushing. You may not realize it, but you have these big buttons on you that the alcoholic knows how to push in order to get a negative response. I want to teach you how to kind of recognize what some of those buttons are, and how to protect yourself from the alcoholic pushing those, and how you can have a positive response rather than a negative reaction. Now, one of the things that I'm going to encourage you to do is to start keeping a journal. And what you can do is whenever the alcoholic pushes a button, and maybe you get into an argument and you fall into that same old behavior pattern that causes you to lose your serenity because of something that the alcoholic has done, I want you to start writing down what happened prior to the event, what happened during the event, and how you are feeling after that happened. And what that will help you do is it will help you to recognize recurring patterns that the alcoholic is using to push your buttons to cause these negative reactions to happen. Now I want to give you a scenario here. Let's suppose that you've been at home, you've been off work all day, you've been cleaning the house, you've been cleaning the pool, you have everything pretty much in order, the kids are organized, they're getting their homework done, and everything appears to be going smoothly and perfect on the outside. The alcoholic's been working all day, the alcoholic comes home, it's late, it's 8 p.m., it's dark outside. The first thing that they do when they open the door is they holler, "Why is the front light on? Don't you know you're wasting electricity? There's no reason for the front light to be on." And they give a snarl and an ugly look, and they kind of grunt, and immediately that button, something on you, has been pushed, and you just want to react in a negative way because if you were like me, you've done pretty much all that you could do all day long to make life nice for the alcoholic, or maybe even to please them. And here they've came home and they haven't noticed anything that you've done, but yet the first thing that happens is something very critical and negative comes out of their mouth. So here's the battleground, and you'll probably hear me say this throughout the video series. The battleground is trying to learn how to keep our mouth shut when the alcoholic does those sorts of things, and to begin to recognize that what they're doing is they're actually trying to push a button that will cause us to get upset. And you know what? They may not even know that they're doing it. Some of the things that alcoholics do are they keep those around them angry or anxious. A lot of times we feel like we're walking on eggshells because we never know when they're just going to have this outburst of rage and anger. And so we find ourselves constantly in this state of anxiety. And a lot of times I don't even think alcoholics realize that they're doing it. It's just kind of a byproduct or a trait of the alcoholism that they are, the alcohol that they're addicted to. So here's what I want you to try and do. Whenever something like that happens, I have this thing that's called the 3 S's, and that is step back, shut up, and smile. And somewhere in between that space between when the alcoholic pushes that button, and if we can train ourselves to just zip our lip, step back, we shut up, and we smile, it gives us a moment to think of how to have a right response and maybe not take things so personally. So in a scenario like that, when they come home and they say, "Why is the front light on?" and they do it in a very mean and critical type way, we could just say, "Oh, honey, you know what? Let me get that. I didn't realize that the light was on. Come on in. How was your day?" Rather than taking it personal. And that can totally diffuse an argument starting. And it also can help us to feel better about ourselves on the inside because we didn't respond or react in a negative way. We didn't get into an argument. And so therefore our emotions can stay somewhat more stable rather than our emotions being all out of whack because we engage with the alcoholic whenever they push that button. And the reason we engage is because we're trying to defend ourselves, puts us on the defensive, makes us want to say things, you know, "I've been cleaning the house all day long, I've been managing everything and everything's perfect, I can't believe that you come home and the first thing that you do is criticize me." Well, whenever we understand that one of the personality traits of the alcoholic is that they keep people angry around them, when we can begin to accept that, we can better let go of taking things so personally. We'll begin to notice that the alcoholic not only directs that type of behavior towards us, but they direct that type of behavior towards other people. So that's just a little bit about button pushing, how to protect yourself from that. You're going to learn a lot of different things throughout this series, different things like step back, shut up, and smile. That'll give you that brief time in between to just have a right response. Another thing that I learned was how to just put my finger over my mouth. You know, alcoholic would do something and I would just kind of like that. Anyway, there's a lot of different tips you're going to be getting throughout this series. So there you go. I want to talk about obsession. You may not even realize it. If you're like me, from the time I woke up in the morning until I would go to sleep, I was constantly obsessing over the alcoholic. Sometimes even in the middle of the night when I would wake up and they weren't home, or even if they were home. Consciously or subconsciously, we constantly have this thing running in our brains, obsessing over what the alcoholic is doing. Now this is something that we became enmeshed in and entangled in with the alcoholic over a long period of time. So be gentle on yourself. It takes a while to break free from this constant obsession. But once we begin to do that, I guarantee you, you will begin to enjoy more peace and serenity in your life. So there are a lot of different things that we obsess over that have to do with an alcoholic or an addict. You know, they have a tendency to tell lies and not be truthful. And we obsess over those things because we know what the truth is, or we are trying to get the truth out of them. So we're trying to talk to them about how they've lied to us, and then they continue to lie. And it just causes our mind to just keep going and going and going and going and going. And there's no end to this obsessing. If we can just accept that alcoholics lie and just let those things go and not confront the lies, there's going to be less obsessing going on in our lives, and we're going to have more peace and serenity. Now, other things that we obsess about. Are they really at work whenever they say they're at work? Did they really go down the street to their friend's house when they left, when they said they were going down the street? And we can protect ourselves from adding fuel to the obsession fire by not doing things like getting in the car and driving around looking for them to actually see if what they have told us is the truth. These sort of things take self-discipline. Things like, you know, if the alcoholic leaves a nasty message on the phone, they're angry at you for whatever reason, and you pick it up and you begin to hear it. You know, you don't have to listen to that message. You can delete that, because if you listen to that, they're going to say some things that are going to really push your buttons and cause your mind to obsess even more. So you have to pull out this protective shield that protects your serenity and delete that sucker. Don't even listen to it, and that will help protect your serenity. Chances are they're not even going to remember what it was that they were ranting and raving about anyway. So what are some of the other things that we might obsess about? Well, the alcoholic didn't come home when they said that they were supposed to come home, when they said they were going to come home. And so we obsess about where they're at, and you know what, maybe they're out late at night and we're pacing the floor because they're not at home. We're thinking about getting in the car and driving around looking for them. You know, those are things that we need to try and break free of, those habits of staying up all night worrying about them. You know, there's nothing that we can do about it. When an alcoholic or addict is out and they're gone, they're not answering their phone, we don't know where they're at, getting in the car and driving around looking for them, it just causes us to be even more and more crazy. So here's something that I'm going to offer a suggestion, and it's not necessarily the easiest thing to do, but it may help you, and that is just get in bed and go to sleep. You know, if you've called their cell phone and they're not answering the cell phone, it's good to just call once and leave a message and then let it go. If they don't call you back, repeatedly calling them over and over is not going to do any good. And besides that, if you do get a hold of them, you may hear party music in the background. They may be slurring their words, and it may even cause the obsession to be greater. So the best thing that we can do for ourselves is just get in bed and try to go to sleep. Now, if the alcoholic comes home in the middle of the night after we've been in bed for a while and maybe we're not asleep, I was taught to just act as if I was asleep, that it wouldn't do any good at all to confront the alcoholic about where they were or why they weren't answering their cell phone. You know, they're going to be, when they come home, they're going to be inebriated and wasted anyway. So it doesn't do any good to try and have some type of a rational conversation with an alcoholic, especially in the wee hours of the morning after they've been out partying all night long. So protect your peace and serenity. Protect your peace and serenity by not confronting them during these various times of when this type of thing happens. So let's see. What else can we do to keep ourselves from obsessing over the alcoholic, or addict? One of the things is whenever we're around them, you know, we have this constant obsession of what drug are they on now? You know, right now they're all loving and kind and everything else, but you know, what happens an hour from now whenever they turn into this raging lunatic? And we begin to obsess over whatever their state is at the time. So as soon as they come home from work, maybe we begin to obsess looking at them, wondering if they're slurring their words or looking at their eyes or trying to figure out if they're actually drunk or they're high on something, or we're trying to figure out by their actions and what they're saying if they're actually going to stay home or if they're going to try and create this atmosphere of anxiety so that they can have an excuse to go bolting out of the house in anger and go party down the street. Here's what I want to suggest, and that is whenever they come home or whenever you're around them, do your best to not try and analyze them to see if they are high on something. And there's several ways that you can do this. You know, just cook dinner and don't even look at them. Whenever they come home, go into another room. Find something else to do. If you have to interact with them, you know, you don't have to look at them. You can talk to them. Anyway, I think you kind of get the point of what I'm saying here. So those are some good tips for you on how to begin to break the obsession. And now maybe you have a little bit of an idea of what some of the obsessions are. And as you continue to keep a journal on a daily basis, you're going to recognize different thought patterns that are going on within you, and you're going to recognize these obsessions, and you'll start being able to pull out some of these methods and techniques that I'm offering to you that will help you protect your peace and serenity. And so anyway, there you go. I want to talk a little bit about reconnecting with the things that we enjoy doing. You know, as we interact with the alcoholic on a very gradual and slow basis, we begin to lose ourselves. We get so enmeshed and entangled in their life and all of the chaos going on that we actually forget how to really have fun in life and enjoy life to the full. So one of the things that I always recommend is that we just start by making a list of things that we really enjoy doing. Can go all the way back into our childhood if we like. We make this list and we just pick something and decide to do it and do that apart from the alcoholic. And this is really important because this plays into learning how to let go of an alcoholic and how to detach from an alcoholic. It gives us that place where we can pull away from the craziness and the chaos and the insanity that we're living in or that we're dealing with and find a place of peace and serenity in doing something that we really enjoy doing. Now, I did things like I started rollerblading. I went out and bought me a pair of rollerblades, and we have a park in my city that's down by the waterfront, and I would just go down there and rollerblade around and around and around, and it became a good meditation time for me to spend time with God and prayer also as I would do that. I also am a musician. I love to play the guitar. I write songs, and so I really reconnected with that and started playing a lot of music. A lot of times I would just grab my guitar and go down to a different place by the waterfront and sit down on the rocks, and I would just play my guitar and sing for a couple of hours. It was a great escape for me, and I was reconnecting with things that I really enjoyed doing. And it greatly helped me to detach. Now, even though we separate ourselves physically from the alcoholic, we still have this battle that goes on in our mind, because even though I may be out rollerblading, or I may be out on a walk or playing the guitar or whatever, spending time with friends, my mind still has a tendency to want to go back to the chaos and the insanity of everything that's going on in my life that has to do with the alcoholic and the addict. So it takes some work to break away from having all of that craziness, crazy making going on inside of our head. But as we continue to practice this reconnecting with the things that we really enjoy doing, and we start taking time for ourselves, the crazy making in our head begins to lessen, and we can start to focus more on living in the moment and enjoying the moment rather than being caught up in moments of the past or fear of the future. Being involved in Al-Anon and 12-step group meetings is a great way to kind of escape and let go and detach from the situation at home. And what I found in those meetings is through the years I've established great friendships, and it is a fun place for me to go now, rather than when I first started. It was a difficult place to go because learning how to cope with an alcoholic and addict was very frustrating and difficult. But I continued to go back to those meetings. Now I go back. I've been there for like 10 years now, 11 years, and I just absolutely love to go to support group meetings. I have a good time there. A lot of times I'll go and I'll not feel very good when I get there, and I'll leave feeling lifted up and feeling a lot more better. And so that, for me, now is something that I really enjoy doing, and so that's on my list of things to do. I go to meetings because I love to do that. So you have the idea here. Take some time to take care of yourself. I don't know, whatever. Go get your hair done. Get your nails done. Take a bubble bath. Go for a jog. Go for a walk. Go to a movie. Just take care of yourself. Let go of the alcoholic. Just let them go and detach, and start treating yourself with kindness and love and respect, because you deserve all of those things. So there's a little bit on reconnecting with those things that we like to do. All right, I want to talk to you about having an alternate plan. What I mean by this is alcoholics and addicts, they're not really dependable sometimes, They can make plans with us to do something on a certain day, and as much as we may try to manipulate them and control them to make sure that they follow through with what they've committed to do, they're going to break the commitment. That's just what alcoholics do. So, I want you to try and start training yourself to be prepared for this sort of thing. We can make our plans with an alcoholic addict, but just to keep in our minds that, it may not work out the way that we want it to. They may break the plans. And so what we need to do is be prepared to come up with an alternate plan, either on the spur of the moment or kind of think ahead. If they don't follow through, here's how I'm going to handle this situation. Now, I'll give you an illustration. I had plans with an alcoholic addict one time, and we had bought tickets to go somewhere for about 2 weeks in advance. And I kept mentioning to this person, remember we have this plan. And even right down to the day of when we were supposed to do it, they said, yes, I'm going to be home from work around 5 o'clock, and I'll get ready and we'll go. Well, you know what? 5 o'clock came, and they weren't home. And 5:30 came, and they still weren't around. 5:45, and they weren't answering their phone. 6 o'clock came around, and I finally realized, you know what? they're ditching me. They're not going to follow through with the plans. And here I am, I've got these 2 tickets. And you know what? Because I was prepared, rather than being angry with the alcoholic and upset, what I did is I got on the phone and I called one person from my Al-Anon support group and asked them if they would like to accompany me to this performance. And he said yes. And it was absolutely amazing. We had a wonderful time, and our friendship grew. We got closer because of that night, and we were able to reminisce about that particular night. And I was actually able to share that with other people in the meetings about how powerful that was to be able to pick up the phone and have someone within the support group program that knew what I was dealing with and what I was going through, and that they were there for me, and they knew the importance of being there for me, and they actually wanted to be a part of what I was doing. And the other part of that is I learned that whenever an alcoholic breaks plans like that, you know what, it's best to not confront them and ask them, why they broke the plans. It doesn't matter why. They just decided to go party or do whatever it was that they decided to do. And all it does is just cause us to get irritated and frustrated whenever we confront them, and then they start lying to us and making up all kinds of excuses. And, we know that they're not telling the truth, and we step back into that behavior pattern of going around and around. And the purpose of this video series is to teach us how to break those old behavior patterns and how to get more peace and serenity in our life, how to begin to have a life for ourselves apart from the alcoholic, and how to begin to let go of them and let them pretty much go about their life. If they choose to break the plans, that we can still live our life and we can still have a good time, even if they decide or choose not to be a part of what the plans were. So there you go. Give that a try. Okay, I want to talk to you about minding your own business. If you'll just take that short statement and put it into your thought patterns, you will achieve a lot more peace and serenity in your life. So here's what I mean. I have a daughter who recently moved into a rental house, and after she moved in, she found out that down the street there's some drug dealers, there's a prostitute, and what's happening over the weeks is that they're getting a lot of travelers in front of their house. They've had people who are addicted to cocaine approach them, asking them for cigarettes. They had a homeless guy on the street that flashed them. And so you can see this has caused a lot of unrest in her life. And she's called me on several occasions and she's told me what's going on with her street. Now, she's on a month-to-month lease, and what I said to her is, honey, you're on a month-to-month lease. You can move at any time, and if you need some help, I'll be there for you and I'll help you move. It's only going to get worse. The situation is not going to get better. And so I told her that, and she continued to share her feelings with me. Well, over the course of the next few weeks, she would call me periodically, and she would tell me about another story of a different person on the street that was disrupting her serenity and how she felt really uncomfortable with that situation. Now, rather than drilling her and saying, I told you that things weren't going to get any better, you need to get out of there, I just listened to her and I reassure her that I'm there for her, and whenever she's ready to move, just let me know and I'll come over and help them get moved. Now, this has helped keep the lines of communication open with her because she doesn't feel like that I'm condemning her or being judgmental of her choices, but yet I'm there for her as a father to listen to her and also to help her if she needs my help. Now, that is all a part of minding my own business. She's old enough now to make her own decisions. So, my point is that if we can adapt the mindset of saying things once and then not reiterating what we have said over and over again, that's all a part of minding our own business. We'll find that we'll have a lot more peace and serenity in our life, and the people that we're dealing with will have a lot more peace and serenity, at least in their interactions with us and their lives. Now, the key to minding our own business with an alcoholic is obviously going to be in letting go of the alcoholic, learning how to do that, and detaching from the alcoholic. Minding our own business with the alcoholic, we're constantly having to do things like journaling, keep a journal of events that happen, and we need to do exercise on a regular basis, and we need to get involved in a 12-step program so that we can have have friends that we can talk to on the phone whenever we get really frustrated with the alcoholic. So as you can see that if we can take and put our frustrations down on paper, or we can let our frustrations out on another person, or exercise, those types of things will help us to mind our own business, to keep things clean on our side of the street. I don't know if you've ever heard me give that illustration, but you know, I have my side of the street, the alcoholic has their side of the street, and it's my responsibility to keep my side of the street clean. Everything that's in my life, to keep it in good order. What the alcoholic decides to do on their side of the street is pretty much their business. So I need to mind my business and stay on my side of the street. Now, I've also heard it said that if it's not outside of my own hula hoop, then it's not my business. So basically anything from here back is the only thing that I should be concerned with in my life. So you'll find that these little tips that I'm throwing out here will greatly help you to maintain, to achieve, and to protect your serenity. If you can learn how to just take this little phrase, mind my own business, and in a moment of when you want to just kind of interject and be judgmental and tell someone how they should be living their life, just take a moment and let that little phrase, mind my own business, run through your head, and it will actually act as a shield, a protection from you actually saying things maybe that you don't mean, or interjecting in a situation something that really doesn't need to be said. That mind your own business will work as a great shield. Now, someone recently said something in a meeting that I was in, and what they said is that I get into a lot less trouble by not saying things. And that really makes a lot of sense to me. So there are a few keys and tips for you on how you can mind your own business. And anyway, there you go. I want to talk to you about the power of starting over. You know, when I learned that I could start my day over at any time, that was an amazing revelation. And to take it a step further, when I realized that I could start my day over as many times as I needed to in a day, that helped me tremendously. See, the problem that we have whenever we're interacting with an alcoholic or an addict, or anyone for that matter, is we can really get blindsided. People have a way of pushing our buttons, and we can instinctively or spontaneously have a negative reaction, and we can come away from that incident with our mind just reeling with thoughts of the things that we said, things that we should have said, things that we shouldn't have said, and it causes this uneasiness within our emotions and within our mind. The way that we can put a stop to that is coming back into the present moment, letting go of the past, getting out of the future, and find ourselves in the present moment, realizing that we made a mistake and it's okay to start our day over. And we can start our day over 100 times in a day if we have to. Now, the idea here is progress and not perfection. You know, we're not the way that we used to be. We are trying to change, and we are using these various methods that we're learning of how to deal with an alcoholic or an addict to better ourselves. We're trying to love the alcoholic unconditionally, and we're doing the best that we can. So we have to find this place where we can start over and realize it's okay to make a mistake. If we have to start over 1,000 times in a day, that's all right. Now, in starting over, one of the ideas here is that we're trying to keep our side of the street clean. Now, a good way to start over is by forgiving myself and also forgiving the alcoholic of what they have done. And you know what? If I need to make an amend or tell the alcoholic that I'm sorry for something that I did or I said, that keeps my side of the street clean. Now, if I do say that I'm sorry for something I said that or I did to the alcoholic, addict, or anyone, here's the thing. I have no control over how they're going to respond to me making an amend to them. That's on their side of the street, and if they choose to keep their side of the street a mess, well, then that's their choice. Now, don't have any expectations whenever you go to an alcoholic and you say, I'm sorry that I called you a name, or I'm sorry that I did this, because you know, they may just throw it right back in your face. The idea is to keep your life clean and to find that place where you kind of sweep your side of the street off, you get it cleaned up by starting over. So starting over can be making that amend, forgiving yourself for the things that you said. Okay, so There you go. Work on starting over, and you can do that however many times that you need to in a day. So you can put a smile on your face, put your shoulders back, put your chin up, and walk through life in confidence, knowing that you started over with a brand new start, and this day can be a good day rather than letting it spiral out of control into a horrible day because you're living in the past or in fearing the future. Okay, there you go. I want to talk a little bit about how alcoholic or addicts have a tendency to blame people for just about anything in their life. Now, once you begin to recognize this characteristic of the alcoholic, you'll be able to better protect yourself from actually owning those things that they are blaming you for. As I had said before, if you keep a journal, you're going to start noticing these kind of things when the alcoholic is blaming you for things. And you want to just stop and take a look at what they're saying and actually kind of run it through that filter to see if it's true. You know, and remember how we communicate with an alcoholic is we don't let those things devastate us. We just let them bounce off of us, or we take a look at them, and if we have to apologize and make an amend, then we apologize and make an amend. If what they're saying isn't true, what they're blaming us for, we don't necessarily have to defend our character because, you know, that's the type of things that cause us to get in arguments and fights with the alcoholic. But what we can do is recognize that when they're blaming us for something and it's not true, we can learn how to just zip our lip and not react in a negative way, but respond in a positive way by saying something like, I'm sorry you feel that way, or that's not true, or that's your opinion, or that's not actually how things happened. Those short little statements will help you keep your composure and also help you to not get in an argument and a fight with the alcoholic. Okay, so why do alcoholics blame people for other things in their life? Well, I suppose one of the reasons is that they feel so bad about themselves that they can point the finger at other people and place blame and have a judgmental attitude towards others. Then somehow it makes them feel better about themselves. And you know what? If we can keep ourselves from falling into that trap of pointing the finger at them whenever they're trying to point the finger at us, we're going to walk away with a lot more peace and serenity in our life because we didn't say things that we didn't mean, and we didn't get angry, and we didn't get in an argument and fight with the alcoholic. So there's a little bit about blaming, and that it's just one of the characteristics that alcoholics have. So don't take things so personally. It's just what they do. All right, I want to talk to you about being happy. You know, we have a right to be happy regardless of how the alcoholic treats us or what their opinions are of us. If we can learn how to detach and separate ourselves from what the alcoholic thinks about us, how they treat us, and begin to get our own life and have our own interests and our own hobbies, then we can begin to experience more happiness in our life. You know, I'm a beautiful person. I have gifts and talents that were only entrusted to me in this life. One of those things that I love to do is music. I play the guitar, I sing, I write music, and I'm able to get around to different places and share my music with other people. It brings joy to them, and it brings joy to me. Now, a scenario might be that an alcoholic or an addict might belittle me and say, oh, you're a horrible musician, or your songs are stupid, or whatever it is that an alcoholic or an addict may say about something that I really enjoy. But I have to learn how to not let those things affect me and just continue forward with my dreams and goals and things that I know that bring me happiness and things that I know will help bring other people happiness as well. So we learn how to get that protective armor on us to not let the things that the alcoholic say about us to affect us. All right, now, getting happy. How are we going to get happy? Well, we have to make a list of things that we enjoy doing, and we have to start doing things apart from the alcoholic. Detaching and letting go of the alcoholic and separating our lives from them. We can still live with them and love the alcoholic, but yet we learn how to do things on our own that we enjoy doing. Even though the alcoholic may have an opinion about what we're doing, we still continue forward and we do those things because they bring happiness to us in our life. Now, a lot of times we might be met with resistance by the alcoholic or the addict. You know, they may not like it if we go to 12-step meetings because they're making us happy and we feel good about ourselves, and so we get met with resistance. But that's when we pull out those tools that I've been sharing with you about saying things to the alcoholic, you know, like, I'm sorry you feel that way, that's your opinion, you may be right, but just let them know that you're going to continue to do the things that you're doing because they bring you happiness. I don't know, what is it for you that makes you happy? Maybe it's jumping out of an airplane, maybe it's cliff diving, maybe it's sailing a boat, water skiing, snow skiing, maybe it's simply just sitting down at the computer, eating Twinkies or bonbons, drinking your favorite coffee, and watching YouTube videos on the internet. Maybe you like to spend time with your pets or your kids. Whatever it is, it's time to start doing things that you enjoy doing. This is a part of breaking the obsession that we have with the alcoholic. Letting go of all the chaos and how enmeshed and entangled that we are in their life, and we just start cutting those things off and enjoying life on our own. I have a good friend of mine that says, have a nice day unless you've made other plans. And I always laugh when she says that because it simply is our choice to have a nice day. Now, there are a lot of little things that we can do to help attribute to our happiness. One of the things that I love to do first thing in the morning is make the bed. As soon as I get up, boom, I get that bed made because it makes me feel better about myself. You know, there could be just dishes sitting in the sink or on the counter for a while. You know, I always feel better if I just take the time to get things cleaned up. If I invite people over to my house, it gives me more motivation sometimes to keep things in order and get things in order, and it makes me feel good about myself. Now, one of the things that we do in the support group that I'm involved with is we have what we call a meeting after a meeting, where we will go out and spend time at a restaurant just getting to know each other and laughing and just having a good time with one another. Another thing that we do is we plan a game night, and these are just support group people that I get together with. Every week or every couple weeks we get together and we play board games or card games or dominoes or something, and we eat, we laugh, we spend time together, and it's just a wonderful time to be away from all of the difficulties that we have in life and all the responsibilities to get together and have a great time. I love to go fishing. Sometimes I'll get up in the morning and the weather's right and I'll just grab my fishing pole and take off and I'll go fishing. There are things that I do that bring joy to me in my life. Spending time with my kids, going for walks, exercising. So you have a right to be happy. And your happiness can start today, by putting your chin up, holding your shoulders back, getting dressed nice, and feeling good about who you are. Making a gratitude list, that can help greatly to helping our attitude to be happier. When we get our focus off of all of the things that are wrong in our life and we start focusing in on things that are good in our life, we feel better about ourselves and we become happier people. A lot of times it just helps to smile. It just helps to smile. It helps to tell people how much we love them. It helps to just call someone on the phone and just say, hey, you know what? I just wanted to let you know how proud I am of you today. Or helping others, helping people who are weak, elderly people, encouraging people. All of these things can attribute to our happiness. As we give to others, we also receive back. So break away from this crazy cycle of being enmeshed and obsessed with the alcoholic and start defining your own life. You can do this and still live with an alcoholic. You can learn how to enjoy life and be happy. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about how to forgive the alcoholic. First off, I think it's important that we understand the characteristics of an alcoholic, what their personality traits are. We have a listing on our website of many of these things, and I'm going to just give you a few of them. Alcoholics have a tendency to break plans. Alcoholics have a tendency to lie. They use anger and anxiety to keep those around them upset. A lot of times there's name-calling, verbal abuse that goes along with that. Alcoholics have a tendency to blame others for all of their problems in life or just about anything in life. So if we can understand that those are some of the character attributes of the disease of alcoholism, it will help us to be able to better let go of the hurt, resentment, and anger that we hold on the inside, where we keep alcoholics in bondage. Now, once we go through this exercise of forgiving the alcoholic, we don't necessarily have to share this with them. We can if we want to. It's going to make us feel better about ourselves. May not make the alcoholic feel better about themselves, but we're going to feel more happy, joyous, and free. We're going to have more peace and serenity in our life. Now, once we've forgiven the alcoholic, it doesn't mean that they're not going to do things to upset us again, and we need to guard ourselves. Once we've forgiven them, we need to use our tools, setting boundaries, letting go of the alcoholic. I've talked about getting this armor on where we don't let these things penetrate through the armor and get on the inside of us to cause us to be upset and to devastate us. So once we've forgiven the alcoholic, we need to protect ourselves from them hurting us again. Now, they are going to hurt us again. Believe me, we're going to get to this place where we're like, oh, I can't believe I have to forgive the alcoholic again. I can't believe I just got rid of all these things that I was holding on the inside. I was so angry about, and here they are doing things to hurt me again. All right, so let's get into this exercise. I've suggested about keeping a journal. So get out a piece of paper and just begin to write. Just get all of these things out on paper that are bothering you that the alcoholic has done. All the resentments that are on the inside, all of the things that you're angry about, just let them out, all out on paper. Doesn't matter how long it takes you to do this. Just get it all out and make sure that you're thorough and complete with your list. Now, once you've done that, this is going to be a difficult thing to do because it's really going to stir up a lot of emotions. I mean, be detailed as you can about exactly what happened. So it's going to stir up a lot of things. You're not going to feel good. But here's what's going to happen. We need to get to a point where we decide, all right, this is it. From this moment forward, I make a choice. I'm going to forgive the alcoholic from all the hurtful things, all of the anger and all of the resentments that I'm holding them in bondage for the things they did. I'm going to let go of those things, and I choose to forgive right now. I choose to let them start with a clean slate. All of those things just get wiped and washed away, and the alcoholic from this day forward has a clean slate, at least from your perspective and your point of view in your life. And that's going to help you feel a lot better about yourself. So here's what I want you to do. Make that decision, crumple up that piece of paper, throw it away, burn it, tear it up, cut it into a million little pieces, flush it down the toilet. Whatever it takes for you to get rid of those things, just get rid of that list and make that decision today. You're not going to hold the alcoholic in bondage anymore. Let them go. Remember to guard yourself from getting more resentments and letting more anger into your life when the alcoholic does things to upset you. Guard yourself against those things. And this forgiveness is going to have to be a continual thing in your life. They're going to do things to upset you again, and you're going to have to forgive them again. This is a part of loving the alcoholic without conditions, without holding them in bondage, for understanding that they have a disease, and you make a decision, you know what? In spite of all the things that they do, I am going to love them with an undying love. Now, one of the things that really helped me, and you may not have a relationship with God, but I do, and there was a point in my life when I was so frustrated and irritated with the alcoholic, it seemed like I was just constantly forgiving them over and over and over again, and they did something that was really hurtful to me, and I remember just screaming and crying out to God, how many times do I have to forgive them? I am so sick of this. And I heard this still small voice on the inside of me. And God said, JC, how many times have I forgiven you? And wow, that was like an unbelievable thing that happened in that moment. I realized that every time that I go to God and I ask for His forgiveness, that He forgives me. That's His unconditional love. That's His undying love expressed towards me. So I know that we're not God, but if we can kind of adapt that type of attitude with the alcoholic, remember that God has forgiven me for so many things that I have done. And who am I to hold the alcoholic in bondage? I'm not God. God forgives them of the things that they do. So who am I to hold them in bondage and to hold them in unforgiveness? So there you go. A few things about forgiveness. and get that list started. And anyway, it's going to really help you out. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about trust. You know, a very difficult situation I found myself in years ago with one of the alcoholics that was in my life was that I was told if you loved me, you would trust me. And you don't love me because you don't trust me. You know, the alcoholic may have stayed out all night long partying down the street, and I would find out that, you know, she was hanging out with 2 or 3 guys up all night long doing whatever, and maybe I would approach her and say something to her about it, and, you know, it would always come back to being my fault. If you loved me, you would trust me, and I've worked hard all week, and I'm just hanging out with friends, and I can't believe that you don't trust me. Well, you know, that situation is not something that she could be trusted with. She's up partying all night long with drugs and alcohol. Her thought processes are certainly not normal, and she's hanging out with other people whose thought processes certainly aren't normal either. So I find myself in between this rock and a hard place because, you know, I'm a people pleaser, and I would want this person that I'm with to really think that I loved them and that I trusted them, because I'm a people pleaser. And their opinion of me would affect me so much, you know, when they would point the finger at me and say that I was the one that had a problem, that, you know, they're just out having a good time and they're entitled to go have a good time because they've worked all week long, and all of this issue is my problem. Well, you know, once we learn the characteristics of the alcoholics, that they blame us, they keep us angry and anxious, they point the finger at us and make it appear that, you know, we're the one that has the problem and not them. So, what do you do in a situation like that? Well, you know, I learned that I had to get to this place where I would see the reality of the situation for what it really was. It took going to support group meetings for me to actually see that, as I would hear other people share the same type stories, and also people agreeing with me, and wise people in support groups that had dealt with alcoholics all of their lives would tell me, Jordy, they're not trustworthy. And that would kind of like keep me from being on that teetering back and forth, that place of uncertainty. So, how do I stay with a person that isn't trustworthy? Well, I think it all has to do with making a decision. When I came into the Al-Anon program, I was kind of told that I had a choice. I could either change my address or I could change my attitude. I chose to work on my attitude. And that meant that I wanted to learn how to love the alcoholic without conditions. I wanted to learn how to let go of the alcoholic. I wanted to learn how to detach. And all of that is possible. You can still live with an alcoholic. You don't have to trust them. You can let go of them and detach them. One of the things that I love, it's a little short saying, and it says, live and let live. And I would grab a hold of that sometimes when I would get really irritated and frustrated, especially around this whole issue of trust. When it would start to really, really bother me, live and let live helped me to just let go of the alcoholic, just like cut all of those thoughts off. And you know what? The alcoholic can live however they want to live. I choose to live this way. Today, I choose to try and love them without conditions. Today, I choose to try and be nice and kind to them. Today, I choose to forgive them. Today, I choose to love them. And today, I choose to not trust them. So, there's a little bit about trust, the importance of just seeing the situation for what it is, making that decision as to whether we want to stay in this place, and understanding the personality of the alcoholic, that alcoholics lie, alcoholics keep us angry and anxious, alcoholics are going to break plans, and sometimes alcoholics are just going to disappear, and they're going to be gone, and we have no way of getting a hold of them. That's just what alcoholics do. You know, we have to get to this place of accepting that we're going to stay in this relationship with this person. And once we accept that, then we can go by this principle of live and let live, and just let them live their life, and we try to live our life. We do things on our side of the street. We keep our side of the street clean, but we do things in our lives. You know, we go to the movie, we hang out with friends, we go to support group meetings, we go fishing, we take up hobbies, we do whatever it is that helps us just enjoy our life and we let go of the alcoholic, and they can just go on their rampage and destroying their life. And so anyhow, and we do this with the hope that they will finally hit their bottom, and that they will realize that they're destroying their lives, and the people's lives around them are being destroyed as well. And so we hang in there, we make that decision, and hopefully they'll hit their bottom, they'll reach out for help, and there'll be a reestablishing of their relationship. Now, I do want to say this, that just because an alcoholic or an addict decides to get sober, I think that there needs to be somewhat of a trial period. We have to guard our emotions and how we see the alcoholic. Just because they've decided to get sober doesn't mean that we should just turn on full trust again. I think maybe there should be a moment or period of time where they actually have to regain our trust. Trust can be lost in an instant. It generally takes a long time to build trust in a person. We have to spend time with them and see that they're actually going to show up and do the things that they said that they were going to do. And after they continue to prove that they're trustworthy over a period of time, then we can trust them. But it only takes one incident to break the trust of someone. So it's kind of interesting how that works. But anyhow, a few thoughts on trust. Okay, I want to talk for a moment about ultimatums. I'll just give it to you straight. Don't give the alcoholic an ultimatum unless you're serious about backing up what you've said. If you don't get serious and you don't stand firm in the ultimatum that you have given them whenever they break whatever that line is that you drew, and they disrespect this boundary or whatever it is that you've laid down there, if you don't stand firm and you let them walk all over you, the next time that you put an ultimatum out there, they're not going to believe you. They're going to have no respect for you. Not that they're going to have respect for you anyway. You know how alcoholics are. But you get the gist of what I'm saying. You want to make sure that you follow through with what you said. So, a scenario may be that the alcoholic, you have an agreement with them that they're supposed to pay rent on the 1st and the 15th, and they are continually late, and they have fallen behind on their rent by 2 months, and you give them an ultimatum. You tell them if you don't come up with the rent money by such and such a date, you're going to have to pack your bags and move out. And it may be really tough because maybe the alcoholic is your son or your daughter or a close relative or even a close friend. But you've put that out there, and so, the time comes, it rolls around, you gave them a date, you have to have the money by this time, and that time rolls around, and they give you a lot of excuses, and they try and make you feel sorry for them because they don't have the money. And what are you going to do? Are you going to stand firm on what you said and tell them that they have to move out, pack their bags, that they can't live there anymore? Or are you going to fall into that same old trap of believing the lies and the excuses and giving them another chance? It's really important that we have tough love with alcoholics. This is how we stand up for ourselves, and this is how they have to suffer the consequences of their actions when they choose to not be responsible. So there's a little bit about ultimate. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about being consistent. What I mean is being consistent with how I'm feeling and with my moods. What happens when we're dealing with alcoholics and addicts? Their mood changes with the drop of a hat. One moment they can be happy, the next moment they can be raging crazy. One moment they can be loving and comforting and want to have intimacy, and the next moment they can be angry and mad about something. And so what my responsibility is to really try and work on detaching from the alcoholic or addict's mood swings, how they go up and down, and finding a place where I can be more consistent. And this is going to require me really working on this detaching and letting go and implementing the tools that I've been suggesting throughout this video series and the ones that you're going to continue to learn as you watch these videos. This process of not allowing what an alcoholic does to penetrate and affect me. I have to get to this place of where I'm confident in who I am and where I have my own interests and my own goals, and I like myself and I love myself apart from how the alcoholic acts or how the alcoholic sees me or how the alcoholic views me. It's a part of being mature within myself. So much of that is just learning how to love myself. And it's very difficult whenever we are affected by the things that an alcoholic will project on top of us. They have a way of blaming us for things, and they can sometimes just run our character into the ground. And so we have to keep that armor on us, not let those things penetrate us, so that we can stay consistent with our moods. Now, I've talked about a little bit in some of these videos about being on the fence of indecision. When we're on the fence of indecision, it helps kind of, or it causes our moods to be unstable. When we haven't made a definite decision that we want to stay with the alcoholic or stay with the addict and be a part of their life, we find ourselves in this very unsettled state. And so we can start out on a date or on an adventure or being around the alcoholic and addict, and everything seems to be going fine, and all of a sudden their mood changes for the worst, and we come away from that very upset and bothered because we're in that very indecisive state. If we make a decision that this is what the relationship that we want to stay in, and we want to pursue learning all that we can and trying to love the alcoholic unconditionally and really give this thing a go, it will help us to be more stable with our moods whenever the alcoholic is acting out or acting up. We can be confident that we've made a decision that we are committed to this relationship, and I am committed to loving the alcoholic without conditions, and I am committed to doing the best that I can to express my love to them, along with protecting my own emotions as I'm interacting with the alcoholic. So there's this place where, as we learn the different tools of letting go and detaching from an alcoholic and how to stop being an enabler and how to protect ourselves and begin to love ourselves, all of these things kind of work as positive pressures on our life, so that we can stay focused and keep moving in this direction with confidence of knowing the truth of who we are and the truth of what our part is in the relationship with the alcoholic. And if we can just, it takes time. This is something that develops over time, of learning how to communicate with alcoholics and implementing these things in the videos that I'm teaching you. Eventually we get on this place where in our life we're more steady rather than going up and down like a roller coaster with all of the various mood swings and the changes in attitude that the alcoholic has. We can choose to be happy whether the alcoholic is happy or not. So there's a little bit about stability and just kind of keeping your focus, keeping my focus on myself, what my goals are, what my interests are. I've talked about having a plan B, whenever the alcoholic may change plans, and it may seem that they don't want to spend time with you. And so that could have a very devastating effect. If you're really looking forward to spending time with the alcoholic or addict, and all of a sudden they decided they didn't want to spend time with you, you could take it personal. You could feel as though you were rejected or abandoned. But when we get to this place of having that plan B that I talk about, to always be ready for the alcoholic to change plans, and to not take things so personally, and be confident in who we are and the things that we like doing. That's why we make that list of things that we enjoy doing. We pick those things and we do them when we start interacting with friends, participating in support group meetings, so that we can stay consistent and steady. When the alcoholic does things that used to upset us, now because we have these different things that we've implemented in our life, these different structures that help us stay more stable and solid, we can continue going forward and protect our serenity and our happiness along the way. If the alcoholic breaks the plans, we can just turn to one of our hobbies, one of the things that we love to do. So there's a little bit about consistency. Just continue to work on the tools that I'm giving you. Continue to implement them. Here again, it's about progress and not perfection. When you mess up, just start over again. Just do your best to just keep on this steady course of trying to love the alcoholic without conditions, trying to learn how to live with them, how to love them, and how to stay in this relationship. I'm making that decision that this is the course of your life that you want to go in. Remember, I mentioned about you can either change your attitude or change your address, and there are so many things that affect this, that we're not supposed to be a doormat, and we don't have to accept unacceptable behavior. We learn how to communicate. We learn how to say things that we mean without saying them in a mean way. All these little things help us to stay on that steady course of going forward and loving ourselves and liking ourselves and being able to love the alcoholic without conditions. So that's where you're going if you continue to work at this process of the various things that I'm teaching you about how to cope with alcoholics. So there you go.